Uh, I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube. I'm joined by my friends Christen Pierce, Cara, Tillitz, and Patrick McCray. We're here to talk Dark Shadows, episode 368 and 369, narrated by Joan Bennett. Sam Hall is here as our writer, directed by Leela Swift. And this episode marks the introduction of everybody's favorite television witch. No, not that Samantha lady from Bewitched. It's Laura Parker's Angelique. And what an entrance she makes.
She does.
Here's a character who gets no mention at all prior to this. And the build to her, I don't even want to say that word, but I just did, is a laugh in the mausoleum. There's laughter by a wicked woman in the mausoleum.
She's never been mentioned in the show.
Yeah, they don't mention who did it, but you hear it when Julia Hoffman's in the mausoleum.
What do they say happened? I mean, does Barnabas say, "Oops, I tripped and became a vampire and cheated on my wife or my fiance"? Like, how does he write this off without maybe mentioning Angelique?
He just never. He keeps mentioning, the one thing he mentions is about Josette's death, but it doesn't say anything about Angelique. Again,
that far into it. That's amazing.
Here we are with a character with no buildup, that it's literally coming in cold. But the way the character's written, first of all, great job by Sam Hall, but really, really, really great job by the late Laura Parker. Ladies first, what did you think of Laura Parker's Angelique, the introduction here?
We had no idea what she was going to bring. We had no idea. Like, first watch, who's Angelique? You know, who's this beautiful woman that stepped through, and seemingly charming, seemingly, cheerful and happy to have a job and working for this rich family. We had no idea.
It's really later on in the episode where I got my real first impression.
Yeah, that was not a correct first impression of her.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't get Angelique's real first impression until she's halfway undressed in Barnabas's room. So yeah.
What an impression. Well, I mean, I even before I knew of Angelique, I had, heard about the character and so on. So, I'm not going in tabula rasa. I don't quite know what viewers at the time were expecting, but, I think the moment that, the green-eyed monster comes out, where this is going. Yeah. It's, if you've watched the show at all and heard him talk about Josette, and that things went badly, then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't think Nathan Forbes is going to be the reason for this.
Right.
Or his invisible dance belt or whatever. So yeah, I am charmed by her immediately. It's kind of the same case as with David Selby. It's like if you have an infant coming home, either through birth or kidnapping, you want to prepare something for the creature, and it feels like Dark Shadows is a show that has just, I hate to say it, but it's been prepared for the kidnapped infant that is Angelique or Quentin. Maybe at once. Imagine if they had come in together. Everyone just would have fainted.
Yeah.
We'd still be, no one would have ever seen the end of that episode because we just faint from how fabulous it is. But really, it feels like Dark Shadows is a show that's just been waiting for her. And she's the first new woman to be introduced in quite a while. Yeah. Because as I've said, and as I got some hate mail over, Julia has kind of a bit of a neutrality. She has a bit of a gender neutrality. Yeah. And that's not because she's masculine or hermaphroditic or whatever. I don't know if I can say that. I don't know. But because she is not visually coded to look like women of the time. That they had to look like Samantha Stevens.
Right.
Or Shadow Stevens, one or the other, if you remember him. But they had to look like Samantha Stevens. They had pink lipstick and the, little outfits and so on and so forth. And so, so really, since Laura, she's really the first major female to come on the show. And it's a whole new ballgame. There is, because, Joy Sullivan, a mystery shooter. Mrs. Johnson, come on. She's a double agent for Burke. So really, and Laura, this abandoning mother, figure, we can't trust her, and she just seems kind of sleazy.
Yeah.
She doesn't even kind of pretend to not have an evil agenda. She just kind of says the lines of someone who doesn't have an evil agenda. But Laura Parker, who ultimately, of course, is the heroine of the show, as is Angelique, maybe. Laura Parker comes in, and I believe that this is a cool new character. Maybe it's going to be a best friend for Vicky or something, and maybe this will be to Vicky what Vicky was to Carolyn or to Maggie, this interesting outsider, and together it's like, no. And yet I completely buy the authenticity of her excitement and her optimism and enthusiasm. Think about the risk that Angelique had to take just to get there. It's the worst time of year for sailing. It's rough for Martinique. You're taking your life into your own hands. You can't really tip your hat too much with your powers to make squalls go away and so on, because they kept assiduous records about that kind of thing. And she didn't want to call attention to herself. That's the last thing she wanted to do. So she was risking everything to invade into this arranged marriage and hope that she could get this guy. And that tells us so much about Barnabas also, because, we don't really learn a lot about Barnabas. I mean, his father criticizes him a little in this episode, but we don't really know what he does at the shipyard. His job never has a title. Annoying nephew or something. But that's it. We don't know that much about him. We don't know that much about his hobbies. At no point do they say, "Oh, Barnabas, you and your fencing," or "Oh, Barnabas, you've carved another cane," or we don't even get that. He likes to read on them. He's a cipher compared to many of the other characters. We know tons more about Quentin. And yet her love for him tells us everything we need.
Exactly.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Want to hear something new? I have a theory of what Barnabas does for his father. And this makes sense with his friendship with Nathan. I think he's the records keeper of all ingoing and outgoing ships.
Where do you get that from?
Who's one of his best friends? A lieutenant in the Navy. Who better to inform you on ships going in and out than a lieutenant in the Navy?
Well, a lot of people in Port Town have a lot of friends who are in the Navy, Jewel.
Well, true, but in the same sense, for what we see of Forbes is he's in town. He's not shipping out anytime soon. And what we don't know is, well, did he just come in to see? How long's he been inland or, on the mainland? But here's Barnabas, who we may not know his precise job, but I do believe that he's more, because remember, what's Joshua pushing him to do? Go to the shipyards. Well, who would you want at the shipyards? Oh, I want my records keeper of all ingoing and outgoing ships and goods.
But the shipyards where they're building ships.
Well, sure, that's right. Sorry.
I mean, Joel, I'll just say, given how much time Barnabas spends at home, is this a guy you want to put in charge of knowing what's coming and going?
But here's the thing. Does Joshua have a choice? Because we know Jeremiah's his business partner, right? Who else are you going to rely on? You're not going to send
a bunch of employees? He's got employees. They have people who work for them. I mean, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer or something. I will offer you an alternate perspective on this. And again, based on absolutely no evidence. He's a naval architect.
Could be.
That he is. I mean, if they are designing ships, if they are building ships, who's the one drafting the sketches. And these are all things that he can be doing at home.
Yeah.
You know, Barnabas could very easily have a drafting table and stuff like that at home. It also then makes sense that he would be in and around Collinwood, because, you know, those skills overlapped a little bit, and that you know, he would be kept at home just to kind of oversee the last parts of all of that, because it's a house that's kind of been built for him and his new generation that they're all getting ready to celebrate.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe.
They do a really good job of giving Angelique a bit of a backstory in this episode. We know that her and Barnabas met in were in Martinique together. They do a really good job with that here. What did you think of that?
It gives a whole new side. It gives a whole new side to Barnabas that we didn't know. Because up until this point, he's just been talking about Josette.
Yeah.
But then we realized Barnabas has got game, you know.
And I feel like, in a sense, we also realized, yeah, Barnabas loved her, she loved him, but I think we realized a little bit how much of that marriage was arranged.
Yeah.
It wasn't just for
Oh,
love.
totally.
Yeah. And so when Angelique comes in and we get all that backstory,
This was his choice of freedom, was Angelique.
yes.
You know, this was a Barnabas wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Choice of freedom that
Yeah.
was not governed by anything arranged or his dad or
Yeah.
his position. You know, this was just somebody that he probably did love, you know?
Mhm.
And
It raises a really big question. And it's the biggest question in Dark Shadows. Ultimately, given the world he's in, the world he's coming from, who his father is, who Jeremiah is, what does Barnabas want?
Yeah.
Like, really, ultimately, what does he want that will make him happy? And how can we take what he does over the course of the series and derive from that clues that will really tell us?
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
But something too with this, when you're so focused on making other people around you happy, how, it's a little hard to focus on your own happiness, truly focus on your own happiness. And I do think you see that with Barnabas a lot throughout this arc. With, I do think he cares a lot for Josette, but the pressure to marry her from his father. How do I compare him? I compare 1795 Barnabas to the guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off who could who could.
The principal.
Yeah, no, the Ferris Bueller's best friend, the guy with the dark hair.
Alan Ruck.
Yeah, he was
Also Captain John Harriman of the USS Enterprise, NCC 1701B.
He was so. How'd he put it? He was so tense he could like shed a diamond or something.
That was Superman in Superman 2. That's how he gives Lois the ring.
That I buy.
And that's why the Kryptonians came and said, "You can't be one of us anymore. You did what to get her a diamond into the booth? Just no." That's from the other Donner cut, the Donner Party cut.
I think ultimately Angelique she was a maid. She did not come from money. She didn't have a wealthy family. And at the end of the day, Josette was somebody proper for Barnabas to marry. And I think it's the classic, rich boy trying to find the right wife, the rich wife, the rich woman. But I think maybe Angelique was the one, the one that he could love without all of the.
I imagine Angelique standing there with occult daggers and symbols all over herself in some weird robe. And Joshua was saying, "No, I told you to find the rich girl. Rich.
And ultimately, I think Angelique being there, like it just represents and reminds Barnabas every day of probably the only choice he's had in his life that's been a free choice.
Yeah.
What does Barnabas do for her? given her age, which goes back to 1690s, given her abilities, where she's traveled, what she's seen, what is it in Barnabas that makes her risk her life, travel the world?
What makes us risk our life for anybody we love? Honestly, the man we love, we could totally love the wrong person, but if love is there.
Well, yeah. So what do you think she loves about him?
She loves him for who he really is, who she sees him.
Who is he?
There's going to be a moment one day where we get young Barnabas and Martinique and what Angelique really saw.
Right.
She says something in 1897. I'm going to misquote this like hell because I'm old. She says about him being silly or something, and you could tell like she's thinking about something from the past that he did, that she's laughing. She's sort of laughing a bit at it. I think Barnabas, Jonathan Fritz Barnabas, did something to try to win Angelique over from the tribes on Martinique. Because I think Angelique I don't think she just worked for the Dupreys. I think she was a part of the local tribes in the area, or was with them at least. And I don't think she was a daughter of a chief, mind you, but with women in tribes, you had to impress who? You had to, do something for the chief. Well, if I do this,
I don't.
You know what I mean?
I don't think Angelique's the type who's really gonna let Big Daddy determine her.
Like boss her around in a sense, but she even probably told him, "Look, I make up my own mind. Like you don't have to do this," but he did it anyway, just to show her, "Oh, I'll do this for you."
What do you see Jonathan Frid doing? I mean, he's such a shy, retiring gentleman. What wild stunt did that nutty Canadian pull off? What, did he like getting maple syrup out of a palm tree? I don't know. Drink a bunch of Moosehead.
I don't know. I just think he did something specific.
Well,
to try to impress her, even though he didn't have to, and she saw him for who he really was. This fun-loving, intelligent man who won her heart over, really.
Jewel, it could be. Those are not the first words that come to mind when I think of Barnabas. Intelligent, yes, fun-loving. I found a wonderful passage of Tristram Shandy. Come around. It's quite a cracker. I don't know. I would say that there are a few things. There had to be something extraordinary about him, about something he knew how to do, or about something that he was capable of doing, that the men around her in Martinique would not have done, and would not have been capable of doing. And then I think after that, he did nothing at all. And by just having some extraordinary quality, something really unique and winning, and then not pursuing. You look like Laura Parker. You're gonna have a lot of people interested in you. And I think maybe he was the one guy who was, was not pursuing her, because she spends the whole series pursuing him. And I think that's it. It is the fact that he is not this alpha goofball sailor weirdo that is the thing. And it could have been that he simply knew an amazing, I've lost one of them already, an amazing amount about the plant life, the flora and fauna, that might have been a useful cure for something he'd read about in university, that even with her advanced knowledge of herbalism, she didn't know. And it could have been just something very simple. And then, Barnabas, I do have one theory. And this is just a very nice theory, that maybe Angelique was wearing a certain color, and that color is the blue that shows up in the candles at Collinwood, and that Barnabas isn't even aware that he's picking out this color of blue. But in 1968, when she first shows up, she's just going to kill the son of a bitch. She's just had it, and she shows up to the old house for something, and she sees those candles, and she recognizes that Barnabas isn't even aware of the fact that he has picked that color, and that yet this is the color that illuminates him. This is the only light that he allows himself. And wow, would that not only keep her from killing him, she might do a dream curse now and then or something, but it kind of explains everything that goes on.
I like theory.
Well, too, the reason I said what I said, when the duel goes to happen between Jeremiah and Barnabas, what's Angelique's facial expression? Like, oh no. She knows he can't shoot worth shit. She's seen him do it.
Well, yeah, that's not the sort of guy he is. That's it's like Woody Allen in Bananas, you know.
By the way,
can't we have a go duel or something? I've got an Atari just waiting for you, Jeremiah. Hey, take me on that way? Yes.
Just have a good old fashioned. You don't need to duel to the death. Just have a good old fashioned wrestling match. It'll be okay.
Jewel, do you imagine them this way? By old fashioned, do you mean Greek style?
I don't mean with the WWE ring that in their time didn't exist. That's for sure. Oh my god.
I believe we've gotten off topic.
By the way, this episode was filmed in black and white. I always found that really interesting that Dark Shadows, even though they're in color, still used black and white. Why do you think that was, Patrick? Go ahead.
I think it was. I think there was something wrong with the initial. Really? I don't think it was filmed in black and white. I think it was filmed and shot in color, and what was kinescoped just was a black and white thing. That's why these things happen. Now I'm because they wouldn't have gone back. It's not Wizard of Oz. It although it would have been cool. These are just like we're lucky to have it.
Yeah. I do like that it's in black and white though. They still look great in this episode. The characters.
Does the series feel different even at this point when it sneaks in some black and white?
No, not really. It looks good. I just think even because remember the very beginning episode, sometimes when you watch a black and white a show or an old television movie in black and white, it looks kind of grainy. One of the grainiest films I ever saw was Vampire, which is an old black and white movie about a vampire, a guy who's obsessed, and I use that word loosely, with the supernatural. He's not really. They just make that shit up. But it's very grainy. And with Dark Shadows, I never viewed their black and white as grainy, but it always looked great. And even when they went to color and did do black and white episodes, it still looked great. It looked good.
Well, I think they were shot two different ways. I don't think Dark Shadows was shot on film. I think the kinescopes were kind of film versions of something that was video, and video is going to have that very smooth, kind of surreal quality. When they made the Hobbit movies in 60 frames per second, it looked like an old soap opera.
Yeah.
It really did. It had that smoothness to it. The Vampire, that was made very early, and film was porous. It actually, it had grain to it. It had a texture, a life. And so that's why it's going to have that look. And that sure as hell gives it a lot of atmosphere.
Yeah, it does. It's a weird movie. So here's my question. What did you think about Angelique coming to Barnabas's room? Ladies?
Very bold, very brave, and very unexpected. Like, very unexpected. Because like we said in the beginning when she first showed up, you just believe how she came in, how she was introduced, that she's just this very nice, sweet, polite,
Servant.
do what I'm told servant, like with manners. This girl had no manners when she came into that room. She had no manners.
Yeah.
She just had authenticity.
Yeah.
She just had, which is the thing that nobody else gives,
Yeah.
you know, or has there. You know, it's all hiding behind cards and hiding behind this, obeying Joshua or whatever. That this is a very inauthentic world.
And as a woman, kind of like what you just said, there is no other woman on this show that exudes what she does, acts the way she does.
Never has been.
Not one. So
because Carolyn has no confidence.
No.
Carolyn's all desperation's a stinky perfume, and
Yes.
Carolyn's wearing a lot of it.
Oh, yes.
But Laura Parker, Angelique, oh no, this is a very, very, very confident individual.
Yes.
She's more giving off femme fatale without the murder, like vibes. She's giving off the.
Isn't it horrible though that for so long the only women of agency besides like a Katharine Hepburn comical heroine that you could see in a movie was a villain?
Yeah.
True.
And that's where we get that femme fatale kind of association, is that they were the ones who were aware and got done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think too, to your point, you need the femme fatale at times to make the movie interesting, because without them, it's like there's no driving force.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. And often more aware than anyone of what's going on, because the guys are just dupes.
There is a scene in this episode where Jonathan first says, to Victoria Winters, are you clairvoyant? Are you psychic? I would love to meet one. I've always wanted to meet one. I love that line from Jonathan Friends of Barnabas. What did you ladies think of that?
It made me wonder later on why they were so gung-ho about finding a witch. When Barnabas Collins himself was like, I'd love to meet a psychic. I'd love to meet a clairvoyant, someone who could tell the future. But she was exciting until they thought that she was the one wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
It was just.
And even Barnabas himself was like, if anybody's the evil woman in this house, it's the Countess.
Yeah.
Doing the tarot cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it was aggravating, and it kind of didn't make any sense to me that the Countess could be reading the tarot cards, but nobody questions whether or not she's a witch, And
I wonder if Barnabas opened up to Angelique about his interest in that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that kind of drew her to him.
Barnabas probably was very, very accepting and enthusiastic and interested.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she was choking, little soldiers to, make kids die or something. I think she's probably doing, making fireflies appear or something like that. But, or what if she saved a life through these means? And Barnabas was like, that's really cool. You did that. It's like, yeah, I did.
Maybe Barnabas is the one who turned her evil because he rejected her,
Okay, so we have the evidence that she was hanging out with Judah Zachary
for
a long time, and then she had to hit the road during those Bedford.
For a while, I don't know.
She did for Sky.
Yeah. Or just for to heal people, to heal children, because her mother was a healer. They said,
Yeah.
Her mother was a healer.
I'm
sure that was some crone, in the technical sense, some crone that she attached herself to.
Right.
To be her mother. Her mother's been dead for 100 years in Bedford or wherever.
Yeah.
Well, when they say healer with Angelique's mother, I always interpret that as, because in some of the old movies I watch, you'd see somebody put stones on people to heal them. I sort of wonder if that's the type of healer she was.
If she even existed.
Well, right.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure there's a lot of herbalism and, weird kind of white witch kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, Angel, because it's that's the thing. It's the Countess who says about Angelique's mother, not Angelique herself. So this is, in a sense, you're getting sort of, I guess you want to say, eyewitness account or something.
Well, yeah.
I
I
know.
mean, we don't know. There's a ton that we don't know.
Right.
We know what Angelique has arranged in Martinique for people to think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you cannot, if you've seen the whole series, you can't honestly look at this without going back to Bedford and Judah Zachary and so on, and realizing that was sort of the last time we saw her.
Right.
So there could have been somebody who was a healer who said, "Oh yeah, I'm her mother, but I'm not really her." Yeah.
Right.
Bingo.
Right.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Right. I smell what you're cooking. Very, very good. Not to say- I do love that we get Grayson Hall in this episode. Very, very lovely to see her in this episode. And right away, here's Victoria, Julia, and she's like, "That I'm not who." So Victoria Winters is sort of still going through her Wizard of Oz phase a little bit in this episode, but not too much longer. I think this will be it. She looks at people a strange way, but that's about it. But I think Julia might be, or yeah, Natalie Dupre, sorry, is the last person I think she calls out loud to, which I do like how Grayson's character responds to it. And she says about the magician card too in this episode that Barnabas is the magician, and she sees, "Oh, you'll about." I think she says, "What, you'll live forever" or something like that in this episode.
Do you want immortality?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Like, of course.
Do you want foreshadowing?
Talk about foreshadowing. She's like, "No, you wouldn't want to live forever." And then she would
foreshadowing. No waiting. Has anyone on Dark Shadows had as much fun, do you think, as Grayson Hall in this episode, finally getting to play something else?
I was just going to say that.
She hammed that up, man.
Yeah,
she was
definitely.
She had so much fun with that role, I think.
Definitely.
Sam, you're going to write it, and you're going to write it good.
Exactly.
Think of everything Julia isn't and write that.
True.
You think Grayson, when Sam got on board, when they would have, so what are you writing today, there, dear?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you kidding? She got Sam the job.
Yeah.
What do you think the deal was? Sam, I'm gonna get you this job. You're writing these Purina commercials. We know you can do better, Sam.
True.
But you have to do something for mommy.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
And
Are you gonna be a good Sammy or a bad Sammy?
And like most normal married men, he said, "Yes, dear."
Because he's married to Grayson Hall. He's one of the luckiest guys in New York.
True.
Sure.
True.
Sure. I do love what I love most too about 1795. The costume get-ups are so much fun to see because we didn't see all these characters at Barnabas's costume party, like I mentioned yesterday. And again, to see Grayson Hall, and I can't wait till we see her in color in that same dress. It looks great either way. What's his favorite scene in this episode?
I'm thinking.
Honestly, it was the emotion between Barnabas and Angelique when she came to his room.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that told such a story that they didn't actually say, but the way they were reacting to each other, the way that they were looking at each other, their body language, it was telling a whole story we didn't know, but we could totally see. It gave us a whole new light of Barnabas. It gave us a proper introduction to Angelique and who Angelique is or is going to be.
And I think that scene alone set the whole tone for the rest of our time here in 1795.
Yeah, I think
it really set the tone.
It is a moment that begins in episode 368 and it doesn't end until 1198.
Yep, agreed. Yep.
I mean, it establishes, it is so powerful that it establishes a dramatic need that drives the rest of the series until the last moments we see Barnabas.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when we first watched this as a teenager. Because our dad is the one who introduced it to us. I remember seeing Angelique, and I'm like, I am not sure I like this girl. I'm like, when does she come off the show? And my dad was like, nope, she doesn't. She's here until the end. I'm like, what? And so, I mean, that kind of hooked me. It's like, how are we going to keep seeing this woman? How is she? What's happening? but we did, and you're absolutely right. It does start in that episode, and it doesn't stop until the end. You know, and it's.
I liked how even.
What a smart move on Dan Curtis's part.
Right. I liked how when Vicky walked into Barnabas, looking out the window, the very first scene we see, she's walking in, and I like how for a moment there they just fall back into Barnabas and Vicky.
For
a minute,
and Vicky.
Like they just fall back into it, like like nothing's ever.
Like he's an
like
old
we didn't
friend.
jump back 200 years.
Right.
Like, I thought that was pretty cool.
And chemistry.
Their connection has always been there, and it always will be. Like I thought.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite scene in this episode, I love just the fact that, again, we're being introduced to a character who had no build, and everybody does a great job of, okay, this is who this character is. This is how she met Barnabas. All in one episode. I'm going to be an asshole. David Gordon Green learned from this episode here of how to whatever a character.
Who's David Gordon Green?
The writer of 2018, Halloween 2018.
Oh, him. Yes, of course.
That guy. Because that's the thing. Here's somebody, again, we all know where Dark Shadows started from. We know where Barnabas, was introduced at in 211, then 212. Okay. From that point on, do you hear Angelique's name one time? No. You don't hear about her. They don't mention her. But the fact that they put over this character in get across this character in one episode wasn't, yes, phenomenal job by Sam Hall, but a great job by Laura Parker. But again, it's all about giving that opportunity to somebody too. And they trusted her to do that. And that's something I appreciate most about DS.
Yeah.
It never tried to undercut somebody. It always tried to, for the most part, put their characters over.
Right. Right.
So,
I agree.
is there anything anybody wants to add before we go?
Joshua still treats his wife like shit.
Yeah.
It really upsets me. No, but
I won't. I hate to use the phrase "to be fair," so I won't say it. I will say that in Joshua's defense, he treats everyone like shit.
No, he does. He does.
I mean, he really does, and he pays again and again and again. This is as much Joshua's story.
Yeah.
And when I watch this and when I get to the end of it, all I'm thinking about is Joshua, and what is his life become? How much does he do that's based in cowardice, and how much does he do that's based in love? I don't think even he knows. And what is Joshua's life in 1796 and 1797? Wow, I really want to know how did he go on?
Yeah.
What did he do? Maybe he became the nicest man in Collinsport. I don't know.
Maybe so. I mean, Daniel was raised to be his heir, and then he had to take care of Crazy Brain Millicent, and how his life must have changed, because his entire family died. Mm-hmm. He was the only one left standing, and it was like,
After all of that, for one thing, I wonder if he kind of kept Ben around as an employee, not as a servant, to help with Daniel,
right?
To help be a voice for Daniel. And Joshua's a very smart guy.
Yeah.
And sometimes you learn the lesson. And I wonder if Daniel's childhood with Joshua was vastly different from what Barnabas's was.
Yeah.
Right. I wonder too.
And I wanted to say to that too, because, like, his first act of kindness, one of his true first acts of kindness was letting Ben go.
Yeah.
Like,
because Barnabas asked him to.
Barnabas,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that goes into what you just said,
Patrick. In this episode, he wouldn't have done that for Barnabas.
Yeah.
Barnabas would have asked him, and he was like, "No, Barnabas, go to the shipyard."
Yeah.
You know. But at the end of this, you know, it was like, "Okay, I'll do what you
After
want."
losing
you know?
everything he had.
But
Yeah.
But the Countess put him in his place. You know, she came in all regal and where are the servants? And Joshua's, you know, trying to argue with her, and she's like,
You do have servants, right? He's like,
yeah. So that was kind of nice to see after, you know, this one episode that we saw of him being a jerk to everyone, being the master of Collinwood, and the Countess coming in, well, I don't care who you are. I don't care.
But the one thing I think we all understand though too, when you go back and watch episode 212 with Barnabas, and he meets David, and he tells Barnabas about Josette, and then Barnabas is speaking to Josette's portrait about his dad and stuff. Now you understand Barnabas's why he feels his dad betrayed him, because here was this hard-nosed son of a bitch who he thought would kill him, but didn't.
And didn't. Yeah.
It's sort of, you're sort of watching going, oh God, now you understand.
Now it makes sense.
That why Fritz Barnabas felt that.
You know, parents sometimes do things that kids don't like to make them better people, to make them stronger people. And there's a part of me that really thinks Joshua did what he did out of love, out of cowardice, and maybe out of optimism, enlightenment optimism, that right now we don't have a solution for Barnabas, but we might at some point in the future.
Right.
And that you know, I need to bet on that.
Yeah.
And another thought, which is very, you know, DC Comics of me, but okay. And it's that Joshua has now seen very vividly the threats that the supernatural world holds.
Absolutely.
You know, it's kind of like Edward sees those threats.
Yeah.
And whereas Edward's response was to take arms against the sea of troubles, Joshua's might be, okay, I think we've gotten rid of these threats now, but if they come back, we're going to need a bigger gun. And Barnabas is that bigger gun. And it's awfully good to know that he's locked up with the safety on, but I can go let him out at any point if something else shows up.
In the gun armory in the mausoleum.
In the gun armory.
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect reason, perfect place for him to be with all these other weapons.
Yeah,
is the atom bomb.
Very true. Damn, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Because he's also going to be pissed off when he gets out of that coffin.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
No blood, hasn't been out of the coffin, sitting there staring at a cross for however many years. Oh my God. It's over.
Well, and it's really unclear whether or not Barnabas was aware or was aware all the time. I mean, sometimes I feel like he was aware the whole time. Although that's what Barnabas says often when he's trying to guilt someone into doing something. But also I think he was probably in suspended animation for some of that the cross just kind of went, you know, and he was, you know, like a tube person in Lost in Space.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But thing too, you understand that Willie's lack of energy when he comes into the Blue Whale bar, you know, he's tapped some of his blood, then you know that a calf went missing. So, you know, hey, if farm livestock starts disappearing in your local area, Barnabas may be around.
I also, I think, you know, as Willie is lying there, you know, with his wound, and he's so weak and his mind has been drained of all modern knowledge and so on, he hears something. And what he hears is something very akin to the scene in Austin Powers when Austin Powers is awakened. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Barnabas has been asleep for a long time.
Yeah.
What a fun episode this was to discuss with y'all. First of all, thank you all so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Joel.
Well, when's the next time you guys want to come back to do the next episode? Sorry.
Well, this week's a little difficult. Spoiler alert: we are supposed to be having Ansel Faraj on our show this week at some point.
Yeah.
So know when that's happening yet. We're thinking maybe Thursday, so we don't know yet. So
and then we have the
sometime this
summit
week.
on the following Monday. So
So
Congratulations, ladies.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
we're on our way. No.
So we're probably the weekend after the summit, I would think, honestly,
Probably.
because we've got to record and yeah.
Okay, that'd be
Yeah.
good.
We're just a text away. You know that. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Link to Between the Shadows, the Dark Shadows podcast is going to be in the description box. Link to their Facebook page is going to be in the description box. Follow them at Lady Mongoose, at I Don't Cara. Patrick McCray's The Dark Shadows Day Book of Bounds is going to be in the description box. Link to the Collinsport Historical Society is going to be in the description box. Go follow Patrick McCray at The Real McCray on Twitter. Or sorry, X. I don't want to get demonetized, you sons of bitches.
Can't believe you said that. No.
Get it right.
Though X has kicked me off more times than Twitter ever did. Hey, but that's just saying. Have a nice night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.